Blackbird is an American crime drama miniseries developed by Dennis Lehane based on the 2010 autobiographical novel In With the Devil, a fallen hero, a serial killer, and a dangerous bargain for redemption by James Keene and Hillel Levin. The 6-episode miniseries premiered on July 8, 2022 on Apple TV+. The series received critical acclaim with particular praise towards its cast. The plot revolves around James Jimmy Keene, who is a promising young football star and who was offered several college football scholarships. Instead, though, he decides to stay in Chicago area to be close to his thriving business. He turned to a life of crime, dealing narcotics, until he was arrested as part of a wider sting called Operation Snowplow. He accepted a plea deal, which he believed to be 5 years, released with parole after 4. However, in addition to his drug dealing, he was charged with possession of a number of illegally held firearms and was sentenced to 10 years without parole. Given his natural charming and charismatic personality and gift for talking, he was offered an opportunity for a commuted sentence with no conditions by federal authorities. He was chosen to elicit a confession from suspected serial killer Larry Hall, whose prison sentence was coming up for appeal, and the authorities were hoping to discover where Larry had buried all the bodies of these murdered victims. The actual Jimmy Keene himself can be glimpsed playing Correctional Officer number 8 in the season finale of The Blackbird in the episode You Promised. The cast includes Taron Egerton as James Jimmy Keene, Paul Walter Hauser as Larry Dwayne Hall, an American murderer, rapist and serial killer who stalked and murdered numerous girls and women between 1981 and 1994. A fan of the American Revolution and Civil War, Hall traveled throughout the Midwest in historical reenactments, where he would often abduct, rape, torture and murder girls and women, typically teenagers or young adults, but sometimes pre-teens or middle-aged. He came under police attention for the discovery of a 15-year-old's remains in November 1993 and was convicted of her kidnapping. He later confessed to that and additional murders, though he recanted his confessions on both crimes. Since his arrest, Hall has confessed to more than 35 murders, recanting all of them later on, though authorities believe he could be responsible for the deaths and disappearances of 40 to 50 young women, which would place him amongst the most prolific serial killers in American history. Ray Liotta as James or Big Jim Keene. Ray Liotta died before the release of the show, so the 3rd episode is dedicated to his memory. His daughter, Carson Liotta, appears near the end of Blackbird at the Place I Lie In as Audrey, the girl who's being interviewed by the FBI agents about her bizarre past encounters with suspected serial killer Larry Hall. Ironically, Ray Liotta and the character he plays, Big Jim Keene, both died at the age of 67. Greg Kinnear as Brian Miller, a police detective investigating the murders. And Septia Moafi as Lauren McCauley, an FBI agent investigating the murders. Now, I found this to be a fantastic, absorbing show. It really is a prison drama distinguished by its moral complexity and elevated by its outstanding lead performances here, particularly from Taron Egerton and Paul Walter Hauser, who's absolutely spellbinding here as Larry Hall. Creator Dennis Lehane, who is an American author and has published more than a dozen novels, including 4 of which were adapted to big movies, namely Mystic River in 2003, Martin Scorsese's Shutter Island in 2010, Gone Baby Gone in 2007, and Live by the Night in 2016. He really has a penchant for creating true, gritty crime drama that really delves into the deeper psychology of the human mind. This show takes an in-depth psychological look at the mind of Larry Hall, as seen through the eyes here of Jimmy Keene. The show almost plays out like a play for me. It's a lot of dialogue, and it's a lot of two men just sitting in a room across from each other, looking deep into each other's souls, trying to find out who they really are. It's like a psychological battle, as Jimmy Keene now tries to get Larry Hall to sort of reveal his secrets slowly but surely, even using reverse psychology to get Larry Hall's ego to reveal his deepest, darkest secrets. The chemistry here between the two leads is off the chart, as these two actors really bring out the best from each other. For me, I've never seen Egerton really tap into his acting ability here. He has so many nuanced layers to his performance here, from his eyes to the sort of tough exterior that Jimmy Keene puts off at the start of the show to the much more sensitive man that you see towards the end. This show reminded me more of a rich, character-driven material, say of like the show A Night Of. And the show generally steers away from showing you acts of violence or anything that's completely over the top. Except for the one prison riot scene, of course, that is quite a shocking scene within the whole show. One of my favourite scenes within the whole series is when you see now Larry Hall conduct the subsequent cleanup after the prison riot, and he does it so meticulously that Larry just goes into another side of his multi-complicated personality. From the outset, you look at Larry and you think he's just an unassuming character. Yes, he's odd, yes, he's different, but at the end of the day, he doesn't seem like somebody that could even harm a fly. Yet, through this phenomenal performance here by Paul Walter Hauser, he slowly peels back the layers of this character as you start to see different elements to his personality. And it's all done expertly here through Hauser's use of his eyes, the way he moves his face and his lips, the way he even uses his high-pitched voice to change levels and tones. You can just sense there is something more to this character that's waiting, lurking beneath the surface. Even the way he references women, slowly but surely you can just sense that there's this undeniable hate for women. That this man, though intelligent, lacks something emotionally within him and lacks the ability to relate to other people. And Hauser absolutely invokes this character perfectly, from changing his voice, like I said, to this high-pitched tone that at times can just be so eerily strange, to even invoking sympathy of Larry when you see how awful his childhood was, being made to dig up graves and rob them by his father. But at the end of the day, this man is a hateful man who, of course, murdered many, many young women just because they wouldn't give him the time of day. The other excellent performance here has to come from Ray Liotta in his last screen appearance. Liotta's death brings an additional poignancy to the character through his failing health, visits his incarcerated son, and is dealing with his own mortality and legacy. And in many ways it's a touching tribute to a very fine actor in Ray Liotta. This show goes about understanding the criminal mind in a methodical manner, and it really is just fascinating to watch these two men play this game of psychological chess. It's a show that is gripping from start to finish and would leave you sitting aghast at that this really happened, and that Jimmy Keene, who himself wasn't always a good guy, really did serve the time that he was given. Greg Kinnear and Sebdai Mwafi are also excellent here as the tired but yet unwavering police trying to stop Larry Hall from being released and being able to go and commit further crimes. But as I said, it's the two lead actors here that really stand out, and I sincerely hope that they receive the attention that they deserve for these fantastic acting performances, particularly here, Paul Walter Hauser. It's a fascinating insight into the criminal mind, phenomenally acted, and a very, very well made show. Blackbird gets a 9 out of 10.